Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this world. This is the Sunday Conversation. I'm Alan Masters. One of our folks asked an interesting question on social media, and he said something to the effect of, what do you think when somebody asks you if you're a Christian, and how do you respond? And so I'd like to respond to that. I've had people do that to me a lot of times. Are you a Christian? And I said, well, I believe in Jesus Christ, if that's what you're asking, because it could be loaded. They could have a loaded question. And I say to them, why do you ask? Because really, I don't want to be put in a box, although if there's a box to be put in, then a Christian box is okay. But I believe that Jesus did all the things that it said in the Bible, and so therefore, I believe that I am a follower of Christ's ways, Jesus Christ. Now, why does somebody ask me that? And maybe it's because they've seen the way I live my life. Maybe they want to know, well, maybe he's Mormon. Maybe he's this, maybe he's that. What I believe is that we're supposed to live our lives in a certain way. I do my best day to day to live that. I've said before, people are willing to die for what they believe, but are they willing to live for what they believe? And so I try to live it each day. And as I'm getting older and more mature, I find that it's a whole lot easier because I'm living a conscious life, a life with purpose instead of just existing or existing to feel good, look good. I really would like to be good. And I used to say to my dad, boy, this is a good hamburger. And he'd say, no, none's good but the Lord. It may be delicious, but it's not good. So we live our lives, we go through our lives each day, and we have thousands of decisions each day to make. And really, if you're living consciously, you make many more correct decisions than you do egocentric decisions. Because if you truly love God and you love His Son, Jesus Christ, for why He gave His life and He came here, they used to say when He was on the cross, if you're Jesus, why don't you stop all this? There was a purpose for what He did. So if you believe in all those things and you're living the kind of life where you love and appreciate your life and the time that you have here to make the ripple effect in this world, the way that my father has in my life and in yours too probably, then you try your best and you move towards perfection, I guess is what it boils down to. Will we ever make it? Maybe not. But as my dad would say, I'm going to give it a good old college try. But let me ask the man that asked the question on social media. Dave, why did you ask that question?
Well, I was just curious. I've been a believer in Jesus for a great many years now. Your father's the one that introduced him to me. And the older I get, the more I become aware of what it is to sin and my shortcomings. I think it started out when I first heard Roy talk, for example. My ideas were so distorted. I used to think strength was blasting somebody in a fit of anger. And over the years, I began to realize that that kind of anger is a weakness. I've also become more aware of many of my shortcomings. And so I started wondering, as far as my own personal struggles, where am I on the scale of what it really means to be a Christian in the truest sense of the word? Because almost everybody that believes in God claims to be a Christian. And a lot of people drag God's name through the mud because they're not really Christians and they profess to be. And so, I was just looking at my own life and I'm thinking, when I'm asked the question, are you a Christian? I'm thinking, well, I don't know for sure. I want to believe that I am. But when it comes down to having the fruits of the Spirit, love, patience, long-suffering, self-control, all those things, I don't always have all those. A part of me is still a contradiction. And so I just wondered, are we all involved in the same struggle where, trying to maintain your spiritual equilibrium to where you don't find yourself falling back into your old ways? Or are the cares of the world such that they drag us down into the mud, all of us at times, because of the physical demands, monetary demands on us, and different things of that nature? Or is it that, in my case, that I still haven't found the light in the truest sense of the word? Because I know some of the people I see here, you seem like you're a lot more stable than I am, and so I've often wondered, what level am I at? So I hope I kind of clarified my thought there.
Well, it's an interesting way when you hear somebody actually tell you what they're thinking. It's an interesting way of looking at it. I see you want to know the answers. I would say the first thing you have to do is stop trying to fit into a certain box. Because when it comes to Jesus, He doesn't care if you call yourself a Christian. He cares if you are a Christian. And so don't worry about what people call you. It's like I said, when somebody asks me, are you a Christian? I'm like, well, I believe in Jesus Christ. That right there should be enough. It really should, because the rest of it is all intellectual hogwash. They don't need to know the church I go to, because all these things are designed so that they can judge me. He's wealthy or he's not wealthy. He's good or he's not good. They're trying to figure me out. They don't need to figure me out. Just watch. Just live your life. Don't compare yourself to another man. You know what's funny? I said to my dad, compared to all my friends, I'm such a good kid. My dad says, compare yourself to Jesus Christ. Now how do you feel? So, I mean, at the end of the day, you shouldn't be comparing yourself to others, because actually what you see of these folks, you're just making an assessment. You're looking at the clothing they're wearing or the car they drive. You're making an assessment. Are they quiet, calm, cool, and collected while they're here at the Sunday conversation? You're making an assessment. You don't know what goes on inside of their minds or at their home, at their private place, in their bedroom. You don't know any of those things. And so to compare yourself to another man is kind of silly. Just walk your life. Listen to your Father, your intuition, your Father's voice, your Father's resonance inside of you. And don't worry about the rest of it. Don't worry about the box you fit in. You don't need to fit into a box. I've heard my dad say 1,000 times, don't belong to anything or anyone or any group. You don't belong to that.
I wasn't worried in the sense that I'm wanting to look at other people and where am I standing in God's eyes? For example, I had a rough week this week. I was overexhausted from a lot of work I did. It kind of seemed to drag every part of me down into the mud where I couldn't really find that place of peace. And so I thought, wow, what happened here? And it's more of a question, because like you said, I don't know, or we don't know where other people are at. I just wonder what other people thought about that question.
No, it's a good one. Here's another comment.
Everyone is in a different phase. We're all a work in progress. And when you fall, you just have to see that you fell, not judge, not become the judge of yourself, because then that's still pride. Just seeing it and allowing yourself to be humbled by your stumbling. I don't think the label matters. I mean, you can have a person that's married, and yes, for all intents and purposes, they're married, but are they lusting after other women? Are they on the internet looking at pornography? I would say Jesus says that's adultery if you're doing it in your mind. Same as a Christian or a person that thinks they're a Christian. How much fidelity is there? Each person has to look at that within their own soul. I heard an amazing testimony yesterday of a woman who said she was a, quote, Christian. She had all the boxes checked. She tithed, went to church. She knew the Bible. She had supernatural experiences in her life with the Father, with Jesus. But one day she's in church and something starts dragging her down and she is in hell. Why would this Christian woman be in hell? What she knew when she was there, the Father allowed her to experience who she is without Him. And the reason was she was full of unforgiveness, full of it. And she said, every sin that I ever committed was there with me. She said, I also knew that other people in this hell were there for similar reasons. She said, but the main reason that I knew that people were there was selfish ambition. But then she said, the sins that I committed, I knew there were other people that had those sins, but I also knew there were people in heaven that had committed those same sins, but they had been forgiven and mine weren't because I hadn't forgiven. Anyway, she was there for a certain amount of time, excruciating awareness now of what she'd been doing wrong. And when she came back into her body, she was just mortified. She said everybody was coming up to her, what's wrong, what's wrong? And her daughter and grandkids came up to her and she's like, get the kids away from me. I'm too evil. I don't want the kids around me. Like she was so aware now of the evil she was harboring. And it took 30 months of actually seeing and going through all the things that she hadn't forgiven and also the things that she had done to others. I just thought that was fascinating. It doesn't matter what label you put on yourself. It's really about the inner workings of what's going on inside of you and where you're at. And you can fool yourself with a label.
You know, to me, and I know God said that a lot of these people are hypocrites because they look good on the outside, but what's inside of them isn't good. And so when you do that, it's almost like getting a free pass. Oh, I'm a Christian, I'm a free passer. Then you look at what they're doing, and then you see who they really are, and they haven't found anything.
The thing that bothers me, you said you're fighting the Antichrist, you're fighting your ego. Like Jan said, people in hell are there because of their pride. And that's what I see is you have to take up your cross and deny yourself all the time. That denying yourself is a dying of the pride. And I find that really hard because you don't see your errors. You see them after you fall into the pit, or even if you see them, sometimes you still continue in sin. And eventually you break free of that mindset or that hypnotic state or whatever it is that you fall into before you go into sin, because you can't go into sin and be aware. I think your dad said it's like a hypnotic state that you fall into. I had a dream last night, and I was, believe it or not, it was about some car parts. But somebody was delivering some stuff to me, and it wasn't mine, and I stole this frame. Not only did I steal the frame, but I had a frame like it at home, And when I woke up, I was really disappointed because I wouldn't steal anything any more than you would steal something from me. But I'm thinking, have I still got that little pinch of selfishness that I would go that far? And then I'm thinking, no, I don't think so. I think the devil's playing a trick on me. Don't get caught in that. But there are shortcomings that we all have. And to try and give those things up, it's not so easy. You've been struggling with food, and everybody does, I think, sweets and so on. There does seem to be a hierarchy of things you struggle with, but you can't say that one is easier than the other. Once you cross that line, a sin is a sin. And it could be a little thing to you or somebody else, but when you've crossed that line.
So, Beverly, are you a Christian?
I don't really have an answer to that. I would say I would be an aspiring one.
I want to come over to Chuck. Chuck's always got a lot of good stuff to say.
Can you be a Christian if you've never heard of Christ or the Bible?
So my dad says, I asked him this when I was a young boy. I said, what if you're on an island and there's cannibals and what have you, because he always talks about cannibals electing cannibal kings. And I said, and they don't have Bibles, they don't have anybody that knows anything about Christ or anything. He says, it's a very good question. He says, probably not.
I wonder, because I see a lot of people who have the Bible and have the story of Christ, and they say they're a Christian, and they lead people astray. They lead them away from the life that Christ wants to lead us toward. And I see it very commonly. It's not like it's a rare exception. I see an awful lot of people who claim to be Christian and have the knowledge of the Bible in front of them, and they have all this story, and yet they're leading people away from the reality that Christ wants to come inside and lead you to his Father's reality. That's what Christianity is to me. It's allowing this quiet voice inside to lead you to see everything you need to see in the sequence that you need to see it, and to be helpless that way. That's what true Christianity is. You may not seem helpless on the outside, but you're helpless inside and don't know where you're going next and are willing to be led step by step. That is Christianity to me. That is the whole point of the Father sending a special Son to undo the curse of our nature, because we inherited a nature from Father of human race. So that has to be undone, and how can it be undone by us? We can't undo ourselves. We can't make ourselves better, can we? That's the curse. We have Adam's curse. So the way he did it was he brought a son of his that's a little bit different, not under Adam's curse, and he was able to do it differently, and now he will lead us through this process that we cannot go ourselves. And most of the Christian churches tell you what you have to do to be better. And I'm saying that's against Christ's teaching. He's saying that you need to be led, in a sense, like the sheep, the shepherd leading the sheep. That's what you need.
It's interesting about the island and the cannibals or whatever. And isn't it interesting that we are so blessed to have all these teachings, have the Creator send His only Son, His only begotten Son, to this world to teach us something, using His life, His very life, to teach us something so that we can open our eyes to humanity and to what our job is in this world, and open our hearts. And if you were on an island and you didn't ever hear about Jesus, that's why He said probably not. But because if you were on an island and you take it there, you take it in your heart, then you can teach it, which makes all of us teachers, because so many people are on their own little islands. Inside their own minds, they're on these little desert islands, and they feel so completely alone and forgotten about and unloved. And that's why we have to be all teachers.
Even though your dad said probably not, I do believe that when a person has a yearning to know the truth, even if you've never heard of Him, that spirit of truth, which is Him, will come to you. I do think that is available.
That's probably why He said probably not. Lots of hand raisers.
I'm struggling. I want to be a better person, but I don't seem to be able to be a better person. Mostly I'm just seeing how not good of a person that I am, and that I don't know how to be a better person. So that's kind of where I'm at.
That's the starting point right there. Now, what you have to realize is that you're judging yourself. None of us are judging you. God is not judging you. You're judging you. You got to give that up. Just give that up. Be thankful for your life.
Tomorrow.
You do it today. She said, I'll do it tomorrow. Just be thankful for your life. Live consciously. You know, the reality is that we judge ourselves, every one of us. We hear it even in the beginning. We talked about comparing ourselves to others. You know, everybody else looks like they're more better put together than I am, is what Dave said. But it's because we're judging ourselves in every way. Our hairstyle, the clothes we wear, the cars we drive, the houses we live in, how we appear to others as we walk down the street. Do I look like a good person? All these things don't matter. Just live it. Live it, Beverly. You are living it. I can tell you're living it. It is easy to say, but you are living it. You're living it now more than I've ever seen you living it.
The trap is the judging of the fact that you're not good, instead of just accepting that of yourself you're not good. Good comes from Him. And so part of us wants to be good instead of just realize that outside of the Father, we aren't good. So just allowing yourself to be humbled that of yourself you're not good.
You can't fix yourself. We can't fix ourselves.
I can't help it even. But I've had a lot of communication lately of Him talking to me. And when He tells me what I'm doing wrong, I can accept it. It's like a graceful thing that comes with it. But when I see it, when I'm not in my heart spot, like I say, it's like I judge myself at the same time.
Do you feel like you're dying a little bit?
I'm not sure about that one. That's a good question. No, I'll wonder about that.
Because most of the time, it's not us that's dying. It's that thing that's made a home in us.
I hope it's dying.
That is really interesting what you just said. You said when He shows you something, you don't feel judged. Then who's showing you the other times? Where is that awareness coming from? We tend to judge others and our own actions. But when it comes from the Father, there's a freedom in it. You see, there's two different kinds of seeing, it seems.
That's pretty interesting. Well, they say we have a critical parent inside of us. I know I came from a family of two mean parents, so I became like that. And that doesn't help anybody in any way whatsoever. But it's in me, and it's alive, and I can't strangle it. I can't kill it. It's just there.
No, it's going to try and strangle and kill you.
Really doing its best. It's working hard to do that.
I've heard my father so many times say, morning, noon, and night if you have to. Meditate a couple times a day. Find your center. and you are then snuffing it out, because as long as you're conscious, it won't be able to do its thing to you. It happens in the background, in the subconscious, telling you little things like a reel. You're not good enough. It's like a reel playing in the background. You're a stupid idiot. You'll never amount to anything. Isn't that interesting? Because through school, we are taught all kinds of strange things. And there's usually a teacher that will have said to every one of us, you'll never amount to anything.
Learn how to fail. Where you're taught how to fail.
No, you have to be willing to fail. I mean, go out there and do something, and if you fail, you have to, as long as you see where you went wrong, there's a growth in that, and you won't always fail.
It's funny because I remember going through a failure or two or three, and the first one was a boat that I bought. I was about 17 and I bought a boat. My dad bought a house in 1967 in Ventura, California for $51,000 with a dock. He bought it knowing they were going to put a breakwater up, and it was just a bargain deal. My dad was a bargain hunter. He was the everyday American picker, you might say. Anyway, we had a dock, and so I drove up this boat, and my dad looks at it, and it was owned by a crabber. It was the ugliest boat in the world, but I got it. I bought it. I loved it. It didn't matter that it was ugly. It was mine. And I was 17, and I thought, I'm a man now. I got a car and I got a boat. And I drove up to the dock, and my dad was there working on his beautiful sailboat that he had that we used to go out on a lot. And he looks at it and he says, what have you got there? It's a horrible piece of junk. And I went, no, Dad, it's good. It's this, that, and the other. And he says, no, it's a horrible boat. You've made a bum deal. It's a bum deal. He took advantage of you. And because I told him what I paid for it, and he didn't think it was a good deal. It was a difference of opinion. And I thought, well, he's wrong. I'm right. It doesn't matter. He can have his opinion. He's got this beautiful boat. I've got my bum deal boat. I remember how I had to deal with the fact that at some point I realized it was not a good deal. Okay, and this is the point that we're getting to, is in life, not everything you do is blessed. So I took it out, and the engine blew up, of course, and I had to have the engine fixed. I'm going to make it a long story short. But I said to my dad, I said, hey, Dad, where's that inflatable raft? He says, why? What do you need that for? I said, because I'm going to take this boat out into the ocean and sink it. It's such a wreck of a boat. It needs to just be sunken, and nobody should ever go out in this boat again. He says, no. Now, I appreciate the fact that you've admitted that you've made a mistake. He says, now make something good of it. So I said, all right, well, okay. So I took it home, I painted it up, and I actually named it the Bum Deal. Right across the back. And it was big letters too, like a foot tall. I painted it, made it look kind of nice. And somebody came along and they wanted to trade me a car for it. And I told them, I said, listen, bad deal. So I thought I'd, be lighthearted about it and literally just call it the Bum Deal. So I traded it for this car. I sold the car. I made a profit on the whole thing because I kept a good attitude. Because you know what? You cannot be down on yourself in life. Making mistakes is good because you learn something in your character. You can buy a house and go, oh my gosh, overpaid for this house. Well, let's fix it up. Maybe in the market changes and maybe you make money. Maybe you lose some money, but you learn something in the experience. If you get angry and hateful and resentful, then you don't learn anything. Then the whole experience has to happen again to give you the opportunity to learn something from the bad experience. Mistakes and problems are part of life. It's the contrast to the good versus evil. Another time in life, I had another mistake that I made, and I remember thinking to myself, what did I learn from that mistake when I was a young guy, younger? I remember that if I get down on myself, I want to sink it and take the loss and not let anybody know about it. It's just gone. Hide it under the ocean, right? And I thought, no. I actually illuminated the problem. I even called the boat the Bum Deal, and the guy still bought it. I learned something, I got character from it, and I realized that when I have adversity in my life, when things are going bad, like Dave, you said I had a bad week, you either have a chance to get angry at it, and then that'll take you down its own bumpy road, or you can look at that and say, something wants me to be angry at this bad day or this bad situation. And I'm not going to. I'm just going to admit that I made a mistake. I bought it from my ego. Usually you'll find your ego is at the center of whatever's going on in your problems. On the way here, a man called me, told me his wife's in the hospital dying. I said, well, how old? 52. And she's dying. 52. That's far too young. But then what came to me is we get so many chances in our lives to wake up. All these little things that happen to us, mistakes we make, things we bought we shouldn't have, lessons we're supposed to learn we don't want to learn, we hide them under the ocean. And I look back at my life when I was a young man, I thought, I don't want anybody else making fun of me. My dad, like, oh, you got a bum deal. He didn't really make fun of me. He just called it the way it was. I don't like hearing that. Nobody likes hearing they're wrong, right? You made a mistake. Nobody likes hearing that. But if I hid it under the ocean, nobody would know. If I sunk it, I was willing to take the loss, sink that thing. And that's what we do with our sins. We hide them under the ocean, inside of ourselves. And we keep them there. And now for the rest of my life, I would always have that sunken boat under the ocean, right? That boat would always be there. And then someday what would happen? It would wash up on the beach. Wouldn't it? Yeah. It may be 10, 15, 50 years, 100 years later, and there's a serial number on that boat. And they'd go, that's Alan's. Right? But that's how sins are. We think that we can bury them deep, but you can't. They're buried inside and they're buried alive. I went to buy some barbed wire at 9 o'clock at night. Somebody put a roll of barbed wire on social media for sale, and I went and bought it. And on the way home, oh, there's Dairy Queen. Let's see. Nobody's here with me right now. I can get some Dairy Queen. And then I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to resist that little temptation. But I was listening to Dave's point from the beginning of the program here. His mind is saying things. All of us, our minds are saying as we're driving down the street, what is it? Who is it? What's talking to us? The monkey brain, back there saying all kinds of little things. It can be, you want that ice cream. You want that almond joy. You want that car. You want that woman. You want that whatever. That monkey brain is working 24/7, 365. If you are conscious, if you're driving along and you're just watching those thoughts, just like my dad has always said on a movie screen, they're just happening just like it's a movie. But what it wants you to do is to pull you into its movie and make you a character in its dark film. And if you allow yourself, off you go into some la-la land. And then you wake up and go, what happened? Back to the meditation exercise. So if you think about all the stuff that my dad has done in his life, the one thing he did for all of us is to put together this wonderful meditation that brings us to this place of consciousness, to where you can see those thoughts. Because some people live unconsciously, which is in hypnotic state, and then they play those things out. We have a ranch hand working out at Tall Timber Ranch. I'm letting him use my shop. And he's got my tools strewn all over the place. And so I called him up and I said, you know what? I just tripped and fell in my own shop because you have got stuff everywhere. Come here right now and clean up the shop. 20 minutes later, he shows up. And so when he got there, he went immediately into the shop. I'm on my tractor working around out there. And then so I finally kind of walked up to the back door and he goes, do you have a minute? I said, yes. He says, I want to talk to you. I said, well, there's no real reason to talk. I said, you're here because you're sorry you made a mistake, and I know that. And I said, you don't have to go into some old long thing. He says, well, no, listen, I just want you to know I'm sorry. I said, I know you're sorry. I said, I'm not angry at you. I just want you to clean it up. He said, well, you know what you said, I really took it to heart. And I thought, what we say has so much power. It's really interesting. All he had to do was on the phone, right on the spot, to say, you know what, I'm sorry. I did make a mess. I'm on my way. So in every way, we can learn something in life. In everything we do, if you're conscious, then you'll make that tiny little adjustment and move on with your life.
About being careful how you speak and say it to some people it's really important. I was living with Ted's house and I had a right knee replacement. I had a nurse coming, and the front lawn was being soaked. You probably noticed I like to make jokes once in a while. The nurse comes up, winds her way through the sidewalk, comes in and says, "Oh, hi, yeah. How you doing?" I says, "Yeah." And I says, "Hey, we're going to do something different today," jokingly. "We're going to do something different today. We're going to have the meeting out there in the water on the lawn." And she starts walking over there. I said, "I'm kidding." She was going to actually go on the front line and soak in the water coming down.
It's really funny, though, communication, how we communicate, body language, energy. What we have to learn how to do is just to be more conscious of ourselves and the things we say, the things we do, the things we eat. That consciousness is the key to all these things. Just simple consciousness. Be still and know. So that stillness is a consciousness. That is the conscious. I said to my dad, I want to give some kids another tool for their toolbox that are graduating. I gave a talk. I said, how do you tell people that they need to have confidence? And this is what he said to me. Now, I can tell you there's language experts that may argue with this, but it doesn't matter. He says, well, do you know what confidence means? And I said, yeah. But it's one of those words that we use all the time that maybe we don't really know kind of where it came from, the word confidence. And he says, con means with, right? And confideo is the kind of the original. Fideo is like fidelity, with honesty and honor, but within. Confidence, with fidelity. And it's like with my wife, I have fidelity, but it has to live inside of me. It isn't something that I do for her. I live with fidelity, meaning honesty, honor, towards my wife. And the same thing that if you have confidence, if you have that honor, that honesty inside your heart, what did Jesus come to bring? The truth and grace. And I believe that as I'm going through my life, I'm starting to realize that what Jesus brought us, Moses brought us the laws, Jesus brought us the truth and grace. Now, what I'm realizing is this relationship I have with my wife, who I'm married to here on earth, is the kind of relationship that I need to have with Jesus in my heart, my Creator, my Father in heaven as well, which is I have to be honest. I have to have grace towards other people and honesty. And I have to do it all the time. In other words, just when I'm around my wife, it's easy to have fidelity because she's right there. But what about when she's not right there? What about when I'm on the road, when I'm in another land? If I go long, long way away, I go all the way to south of France, my wife's not there. It's like I was driving down the road and I could have the ice cream or the candy bar, could cheat, right? Who am I really cheating? If I'm a long way away from my wife and I cheat, well, I'm cheating her, but I'm still cheating the Father in heaven. I'm cheating myself. So what I'm learning is that all these little things that are trying to take us away from Jesus, the temptations of life.
The temptations of life will force you into a place where you can either go whatever it means to find Jesus, you will go that way, or you won't. The temptations of life are what challenge our sense of right and wrong inside of us, our sense of self-control. All the religions tell you to have self-control. Jesus says no. He's going to control you. But how do you get to that kind of control? The only way you can find that is to see what He's showing you every moment of your life, the failures, like you say, the sins, but see it in a different light. If you see that you try to meditate because your mind is all confusing and full of ideas, and so you're going to meditate to be calm, and all you see is the mind being sucked into this and sucked into that, and you even at some point are so aware that you see yourself totally helpless in the second, in the moment. That's the whole point. It's not to show you that you're in control and you have self-control and you are honorable. It's to show that you can't control, that your control is not enough, that there's another something missing. And I'll tell you what, I only realized this just now. If you're willing to go the length, whatever that length is, he will now give you a control that is not yours. You will feel totally helpless, and yet there will be some other element in there that doesn't allow you to fall. And you don't know where it's coming from because you feel like you're just on the cliff all the time. And that's the magic.
So that's right where I am. It's like, I don't know why I have this strength of obedience right now.
You've asked for it, though.
Well, I have. Yes, I have asked for it. Just like last night when I was driving home and I could hear the temptations of the world and I could hear all these thoughts, but I wasn't tempted. I somehow had a new strength that wasn't even mine. Yeah.
Now, in that moment, you were aware of these temptations, and there's an emptiness that you feel that this temptation is trying to fill. But if you just see the temptation and don't accept it, then that emptiness gets filled by the Holy Spirit, and you get into a much stronger place.
I feel like also in my life that I'm learning about true gratitude. Instead of, I can't wait to get that new car. You know, when I get the car, I'm like, oh, I got it. I'm so happy. Worldly happy. Now, I can't wait to be obedient. When the opportunity comes and the temptation is all around, and I don't even ask, I just turn my focus to my Father in heaven because he knows what I need before I ask. The focus is the be still, so I'm just quiet, and I don't say, I wish this would stop, or please give me strength, or I don't say any of those things. I just turn my focus. Where are you, Father? And then just let it be. Almost like the parallel universe, all of a sudden, blip, I'm right in the right place. I know what to do. I know how to react, or whatever God calls me to do in that moment. But it's a strange thing, and we go all of our lives looking for that place, seeking, searching, yearning, and all of a sudden, it's right there in the snap of fingers when the timing is right.
Hearing people talk about it, it's difficult for me to understand, because when you're at that point and that precipice of making that decision, of letting this evil fill this need that you have, when you don't choose the sin, you don't know what to do, but not doing anything, you wait for that instant of vacuum for the Holy Spirit to come in.
We are always wanting to do, and if there's that little space, we are asking him to do.
It's the pause. And I did a show one time called The Power of the Pause. It's not trying to answer it yourself, giving up to something greater than yourself.
It's just a little space, helpless, I need your help, there's no words, and he comes in and fills.
That's it, mic drop right there.
When you're a child, who do you look to for your answers to life? You look to your parents. When you're an adult, he says, be like a child. Look to the Father in everything. It really is about where we put our focus. That's where we have a choice of where are you going to look? And what does he say? If your eye sins, pluck it out. Where you're looking, where you're putting your focus, that's where you're going. So
it's funny. Yesterday, our grandchildren came over and we babysat 2 of them. We have 4. And Owen, he's going to be 4 next month. And he wanted me to chase him around last night. And I was tired. I worked a long day. I was tired. We moved 25 cows and I was out picking up heavy things. My body was tired. And Pops, he calls me. It just makes me feel 175 years old. Pops. But he comes to me with this little Captain America outfit on. He's got the little mask on his face and a little cape. And he's jumping on me and, hitting me and jumping on me. And I'm on the couch and we were having fun. And so I decided, all right, I'm going to chase him. So I chased him around. And this little 4-year-old guy is fast as can be. He's like Speedy Gonzales, And I'm chasing him around and I'm yelling and screaming. And my daughter and son-in-law and Jan were trying to have a conversation. And I'm yelling at him and he's laughing and we're running around and around and through the house. And I finally got to the point where I just couldn't do it anymore. I was worn out. And he came up to me with this face. Did you see his face? With his face, he goes, "Come on, Pops, chase me." And I looked him right in the eye, and his energy went right into me, and I felt 5 years old again, and I had the energy again. So I chased him around again. But it's infectious. That beautiful energy of a little child is infectious. You know, one of the most beautiful sounds you can hear is children laughing. That is the most beautiful sound you can hear because it resonates with something inside of you. Lately, in my life, I yearn to be that little child again. But I know that I have, gray hair, I have a job to do, responsibilities. I can't be a child. No, I can't be childish. Adults that are childish, that are spoiled, acting like children in that way, that's the wrong kind of child. The spirit of a child is a free spirit. That's what I want, and that's what I'm finding.
Childish is different than childlike.
There you go. And I find that, I have some cows, and I have this Dalai Lama, this Lama, which I'm trying to have a relationship with. He's a stubborn man. And then I have these alpaca. There's 5 ladies and 1 gentleman. And this male alpaca is so interesting. I've never met an animal that has more of a personality. He comes up, he doesn't say anything, of course, because he can't speak. But his posture, his face, and everything is saying things to me. And he'll put his face right in mine, and I'm thinking he's going to spit at me, because that's what they do. He never has, but no, he just wants to smell, and he finally is letting me touch him and stroke his back. And these alpacas are soft. That's why they make cashmere from their fur. But these relationships I'm having with these animals all of a sudden, these cows, I have number 57 likes to lick my hand because they have an ear tag. Come here, 57. I don't name them all because there's too many of them. I put my hand out. She smells my hand and then licks it. Maybe wants to taste me, see if I've got anything worth eating. But I notice that it's not the same kind of a lick when they're trying to grab something with their tongue to eat it. It's just a little lick like, I'm okay with you. A little exchange of trust. So working with animals, people say to me, why are you doing that? You're 62 years old and you don't need to have a ranch, cattle, and all this stuff. Why are you doing that? I know, because you've been watching that TV show Yellowstone. I've only watched 1 episode, so it's not true. But there's something about working with animals. We think we know animals because we have a dog or a cat. When you start dealing with big animals and all kinds of different animals, so much to learn. I love learning. I'm a student of life. Life is the teacher. The teacher is not the teacher. The teacher is somebody that's probably going to take you down the wrong path in your life. Life is the teacher. Walking in the woods, taking a walk with an animal that hasn't maybe been on a walk for a while, watching it, what it does, how it smells the air, looks at the ground, smells certain things, pees on the tree, whatever it's going to do. But life is the teacher. God created this world. God is the ultimate teacher. And he gives you so many ways to learn things, but we get blinded. We get blinded by all the things. And I'm just trying to come back to my true nature, the little boy, the innocent little boy that just has a lot of questions. And I want to let life teach me those questions now. Each one of you, your faces, the lives that you've lived, the comments that you make, all teaching me. I'm the student here. I am the student. And how I go back and forth and talk to each one of you with this microphone, I'm hungry for what you have to say. I love it when you guys speak up because you're teaching me. I can see the way that you're struggling with this thing or that thing, the way you harboring resentment, judgment, fear, anger. Let life teach you things. Open your mind and let life teach you things because that's where God is. God created this world for us and he's everywhere. There's so many little things you could be appreciative of. But we're so unhappy. We do things mindlessly because we've done them 1,000 times before. The problem is we're so unaware of everything that's happening in our lives that we're not learning. We have to have a guru. That whole guru thing, it scares me.
Kind of shifting gears a little bit here, but I was just thinking about something you said earlier, Jan, and it's often crossed my mind, and that was the term selfish ambition. I went through something recently where that whole idea of doing something in my own strength and something I wanted versus what God wanted for my life kind of crossed my mind. And I was thinking of times in my life where I had gotten involved in something that maybe I shouldn't have, maybe a business venture, or I'll give you a recent example. I just bought a metal detector. And for some reason, I'm researching on the internet, trying to find out all I can about it. And part of my logical side says, why do you need a metal detector? God provides for you what you need. This is just my own thinking process. And, I've found more money last year than I actually paid for the metal detector. So I've seen how God can work in miraculous ways. And here I am thinking that somehow I'm going to buy this metal detector. I'm going to be able to find that buried coin somewhere, that treasure chest or whatever it is. And for some reason, I had this terrible conflict about buying it. It may sound like a little thing, but in my thinking, I'm always wanting to do exactly what God wants me to do because I know it's going to be the ultimate blessing for me. Ultimately, I ended up buying the thing, and I think after 6 hours work, I've come up with $4 and change or something, right? So, I did have great conversations with people in the parks that want to know what I'm doing and am I finding anything, and that part alone makes it worthwhile to me. But back to the idea of selfish ambition, how would you define selfish ambition versus the opposite? Just curious to hear your take on that.
That's a really good question. And I think most of us start out with selfish ambition. That's part of the animal nature. And we all have different gifts and talents too. And we're drawn to certain things for a reason. And I think in the early part of our life, we're doing everything for ourself. Whatever talents we develop, when we wake up, can then somehow be used to serve a greater purpose. You can go the other extreme and think, I should never do anything. I should never have any desire to do anything but sit in a chair and meditate. You know what I'm saying? So you can go both extremes. You just got to walk life out and learn what you have to learn. And if your motives are shown to you to be off, then you just look at it. But you still need to have just joy with what you do in life. And you have certain proclivity to do certain things for a reason.
I think about what you said about your dad and what you say about meeting people and talking to people, sharing the meditation and what you know about God. And I find that it's easy for me to do that about old cars because I know a lot about old cars. I know the history. That's why if you have any interest in anything, I would encourage you to pursue it. It doesn't matter what it is, because whatever that one thing is, you'll find that it doesn't stand alone. There's so many things that will relate to that in life. I think the same thing should be said about your struggle or your journey to God. And when that becomes the most important thing in your life, then it's easy to talk about that. You're speaking from your heart. It has more meaning because there's some kind of truth in it that doesn't come across when it's just superficial.
I've learned in my life that the negative things often were negative because I didn't like them, because it wasn't something I wanted. It was something that happened. Maybe I wasn't aware and I took a wrong turn and I went down a wrong road. Jan and I did this one time. And then we came across an older woman that had driven into the ditch. See, if you want to be a part of God's will instead of your own will, then he's sending you somewhere. And why should I get mad if he's sending me somewhere to help another person? I should be blessed. I have a chain in my truck. I have flares. I have all kinds of things, a first aid kit and all kinds of stuff. I have a hatchet and I'm always ready. So when I drove up on that woman, I saw she was stuck in the ditch. I said, I'll help you get out. I said, don't move. Just stay in your car because it was kind of dangerous. And I hooked a chain on. I had a big old truck, and I just popped her right out of there. And I told Jan, I said, I love it when God uses me. Can you imagine if God uses you? Well, we're so busy being busy with our own stupid lives that he doesn't have a chance to. We don't make a time for him. So now when I have something that happens to me, I'm like, all right, what's up? What's going on, God? What do you want me to do here today?
I had an experience with my friend. Something made me go into the living room, and she was trying to move furniture, and the cabinet fell on, it was on top of her. She was stuck in it. And for some reason, I was there, and I helped her. But if I wasn't there, and her lamp fell, she had bears with her lamp fell and dipped into the hardwood floor, made a little dent. But I remember, because you said you're there for a reason, and I was there for a reason. I told her, you know what? God told me to come in here. He just sent me over here because something was going to happen. I was there to help her.
I was at a building the other day, and I went to the radio station over in Central Point to get a mechanical part because we're building a studio in here, and it's kind of a work in progress. We got distracted by something that we needed to fix. We got it mostly fixed, and then I was standing there. Something came over me. Go inside the building. I stood inside the building. I thought, what am I doing in here? I thought, this is not where I need to get this part that I need. This is like the business office. I was just standing there looking at it like you just look around the room. There's a filing cabinet all the way in the corner. It called me over. Come over here. So I walked over to the filing cabinet, opened the drawer, nothing in it. Oh, opened the second drawer, nothing in it. I thought, what am I doing this for? This is I'm needing a part for to hold a microphone, and it's not in here. Then I opened the third drawer, and there was just some trash in it. I opened the bottom drawer, and it was just some files that had nothing to do with anything. And then I thought, I wonder what's in the back. Came over me. So I pulled the drawer all the way open. The very, very last file was a file that I've been looking for. It was almost like it had a little homing beacon. And I thought, what just happened? I was guided to find this file. So I'm learning, if I live in gratitude towards that knowing, that it will guide you and lead you in your life, and it will lead you out of sin. It will lead you away from danger. It will lead you towards salvation. That's where we're going to end it today. Thanks for coming.